Watch this thing rock back and forth when I start it. This motorcycle has gotten more attention than any other bike that I've reviewed, and that includes the 25th anniversary of the Suzuki Hayabusa. This BMW R18 is essentially designed to look the part. This is the Roctane edition of the R18, and if you're not familiar with the R18 in general, what you mostly have to know is this. It's sporting technically not 1800, but technically 1802 cc's of displacement from two cylinders directly horizontally opposed. So they go back and forth like this. It's a boxer motor, and it's air oil cooled. There's not even liquid cooling in here, no radiator up there, up front at least for coolant, a little bit for the oil, but you got these big cooling fins. And the longer you look at this bike, you realize how much of a beauty piece it is, with the motor being the focal point. There have been times I've caught myself shooting review videos for this bike because we have a fuel economy video that I already shot and then a video for the Winding Road channel where we just ride and don't talk. And I'm standing here doing the walk around and I'm just looking at the bike as I speak. And you know it's an art piece because the longer you look at it, the more the details come to you, and the longer you look, the more you appreciate them. We're looking at these Roctane wheels, this mineral gray paint, which you can get two different other paint colors as well. In fact, I think I'd prefer the black on this bike. I think that'd look even more sinister, but the mineral gray does look good. Looking at these accents coming out of the motor and the exhaust pipe wrapping around. You see the exposed shaft drive right there, so as I'm driving, that's going to come out of the 6-speed gearbox and then power the rear wheel. They built in these cases so nicely. I'm seeing I got a little bit of a scuff. I don't know where that came from. I wonder if I rubbed against a car or something as I was lane splitting. I haven't noticed it. That's interesting. But yeah, this Roctane edition is what some people have said the R18 should have been all along, because you can get more of a standard BMW R18 cruiser like this. It's got lower handlebars, looks a little less cool, just one seat, doesn't have the passenger seat like this, but it only costs about $15,000. This one you're looking at is more like $20,000. But it's getting you extra goodies. It's getting you not only all this Roctane edition appearance and everything, the styling, it's got the higher handlebars, which remarkably they call ape hangers. I can't believe that's politically correct here in 2023 or 4, but you've got those. And you've got these storage bins, which lock and are actually remarkably deep. Alyssa and I have taken this motorcycle shopping before, and we were able to fit all our groceries just in the two side cases, put them down, and then you can use the bike's proxy key right here that has a nifty flip-out control. Turn that, and now they're locked. So I've used that quite a few times as kind of a practical bike, and that's I think where this bike makes the most sense. It's sort of a practical, I don't want to say daily rider because it is cumbersome as a daily rider, but a practical occasional local cruiser. They say that you can do touring on this bike, but I don't know. I mean, I guess once you're cruising out on the wide open road, it's fine. You've got unbroken air going over you, and the motor smooths right out at speed, and it's decently comfortable. But in terms of a daily riding standpoint, I find it cumbersome, and it's just a lot to lug the weight around. Big heavy clutch. It's more of a cool evening weekend style piece than it is good daily rider sort of bike. So we're gonna go for a little ride today. I haven't been super thrilled with my audio quality on some of the faster rides that I've taken on other bikes recently. So I'm going to cruise kind of slow on this, and then maybe for the more spirited riding sections, I'm just going to drop footage in with a higher quality audio and let you hear and experience the bike without me talking, and then I'll kind of talk over it at lower speeds. Because just without a windshield, I don't know if the air is going to be super clean on the helmet and then sound great, or if I'm going to get back into the office and go to edit the video and it's going to sound awful. So anything else we need to point out here? Like I said, we do have the passenger accommodations. Alyssa said it's nice and comfortable. I do see a steering lock up there. That's kind of cool. I'm just now noticing that. That's nice. I think we're about ready to go. Of course, a lot of you will want to know how much this weighs. Big question for these big cruiser bikes. 825 pounds for this Roctane edition. So it's going to be a little bit heavier than your standard R18, but not quite as much as the Transcon and the Bagger. But once you sit down on it, it's not a terribly high seat height. I think it's like 28 inches or so, and I can easily flat foot at 5'10". But then I got to pull it up off the center stand. You can see sending it down in softer pavement. The center stand actually digs in if the pavement's warm. But what is kind of cool is the center stand, I don't know if I can show you this safely from here, but when it's pushed up, there we go, it's locked. So that's pretty smart. Some of you have seen my Hayabusa video where the bike actually fell on itself. That would not happen with this bike because the center stand locks. Put that up, turn the bike on. We've got some features on this bike, including the digital key, cruise control, heated hand grips, hill start control, and reverse. Some pretty cool features. So let's start it up here and I'll show you some of those. Bring it up into neutral. Watch this thing rock back and forth when I start it. That is the bike pulling itself over to the side. It really is a bike full of character. And I bet with some aftermarket pipes it would really, really sound the part. It doesn't sound bad right now, but it sounds stock, put it that way. So obviously this is a big heavy motorcycle, moving it around even though the seat height is low. So if you're in your garage or in a parking spot or something and you want to back it up, you simply reach down here, push that down, that lever. Now I'm in reverse and I just hold the starter button. And the bike pulls itself back. You're running the starter. Isn't that nice? And then you simply flip it back. You're in neutral, throw it into gear, and away we go. Let's start talking about the motor. Yes, this 802cc boxer twin putting out 91 horsepower and 116 pound-feet of torque. Nice Camaro action there. So not outstanding power figures when you really think about it, especially given the weight of the bike. It's just enough for this thing to feel meaty. Definitely is a beefy pull when you get going. And then the vibrations it makes are fun. It makes its power fairly low down, as you'd expect for a big motor like this, and what that results in is you pick up and build speed almost stealthily, and all of a sudden you look down at this analog speedometer and you're doing 70 or 80 miles per hour, allegedly, before you even realized it, because you're just revving out second gear. I have been scraping this a lot. I've been utilizing the Fort 9 counter lean as I ride around town, and that results in quite a bit of scrapage with this lower bike like this, so you might have to amend your riding style a little bit. It is a fairly simple gauge cluster in front of us, so we do have that analog speedometer and then a digital readout below that gives us our ride mode and the gear that we're in, and then below that an adjustable multifunction display. Right now I have it showing us a tachometer. We can also give front and rear TPMS, odometer, tripometer, ride tripometer, average speed, voltage, date, average fuel economy, current fuel economy, and time. You'd think that date and time would be right next to each other. I don't know why they've chosen to have that different. Some of you may have realized that among everything I've just listed, I did not include a fuel gauge. And that is correct. This bike does not have a fuel gauge, and at $20,000, I think that's a big swing and a miss. I fully recognize they're going for that classic bagger cruiser sort of aesthetic where you just got your basic instrumentation, but come on, this is a $20,000 motorcycle. It's got top quality fit and finish, and if you do really expect people to put a lot of miles on the bike, they're gonna want to know how much fuel they got left. It's not exactly a huge capacity either. I can't remember exactly what we measured on our fuel economy test, but we've only got 4.2 gallons to work with, and this thing doesn't get fantastic fuel economy. So you're going to want to know if you're heading out in the morning, if you're going to need to throw some fuel in there, or if you're good to go for another 100 miles. And yeah, it'll tell you once you get down to the reserve tank that you have about 40 miles left or so of range, but I see that as an omission. Smaller omission is the lack of an outside temperature readout. Fair enough. I mean, if you're going to go simple on gauges, that's okay, I get that, but come on, give us a fuel gauge. When you select the heated grip, you get a little selection on the gauge cluster that shows you which heat level you're at. And then also, I'll probably get a better chance to show you this later on a hill, but we have a hill hold assist. So if I squeeze the front brake hard enough or the rear brake hard enough, I get a little H indicator right there for the parking brake, and then the bike is held down by the brake. And then when I get up to go and release the clutch and give it some fuel, it's going to release the brake and off I'll go. It's a very nice feature to have for such a big, heavy bike like this. Right there, bike brakes release, and off I go. Cruising up here at 55 miles per hour. Thing really settles down. The vibrations perfectly balance out. And I guess I shouldn't say perfectly. When I'm here about 1900 RPM, you can still see the gauge cluster rattling a bit, but if we get up more like 21, 2200 RPM, then it's very, very smooth. There's still a rumble sensation when you twist the throttle, but it's a nice cruiser when you're just cruising. In fact, I get weary of the bike when I'm constantly coming to stoplights and stop signs, but when I'm just cruising, I get some wide open, uninterrupted space, then I have really enjoyed the bike. Again, if I release the brake, I'm falling backward, but if I just squeeze, now the brake's holding me, I can put both feet on the ground, keep my clutch in, and wait for the green. Sometimes you do get a little bit of over rev and a little bit of pop and burble out of this exhaust. I really do appreciate that. It helps the whole thing feel lively. As you can see, the handlebars are wide, as are the saddlebags, but it's not so wide that you can't usually lane filter if you're in a place that it is legal, like it is here in California. That is fun. The bike is an exercise in appearance and emotional appeal. Like I said, it's a fun and novelistic bike to rev up and to rumble around on and to be seen. Everyone's looking. I get so many compliments coming in when I park it outside somewhere. They go, "Oh man, that's a cool bike. You know, what is that? Swick. Looks really good." Everything. But everything that comes to the actual riding and motorcycle experience from a rider's standpoint is simply adequate. I mean, the brakes feel fine, a little bit like an on-off switch. Obviously, they are adequately stopping this big beast, and we've got ABS and stability control, so that helps. The suspension, also fine. You're not going to get anything super fantastic on a bike that sits this low, but I'm not getting jostled around too badly. I'm going to switch ride modes right now up into rock mode, and I've read some people say that they just always ride in rock, and I don't, because when you're in roll mode, the throttle feels linear. It feels more like a standard sort of cable actuated throttle, where as you rotate, you get sort of a linear progression in your throttle. So roll is actually a nice way to ride around town, because if you ride around town and you're in rock mode, you're constantly getting rocketed away at red lights. But roll is very natural feeling. But let's go up into rock. We also have rain, which, you know, use it if it's raining. But here in rock mode, now it's a very on-off feeling for the throttle, and it's very manic. And it's actually kind of hard to modulate if you're coming through corners and you're trying to ride a little bit more precisely. You got a little bit of throttle rotation before you're getting a lot of acceleration, and that doesn't feel natural or intuitive to me. I mean, it does make the bike feel very fast and powerful, but all it's doing, oh, okay, all it's doing is giving more fuel when you don't necessarily expect it. Oh, damn, that's crazy. Not what I expected to see. Alright, now after being humbled by seeing a car accident, let's go run some corners on this 825-pound cruiser. You're getting full twist at just over 3,000 RPM, so running around in third gear is adequate for most of this sort of riding. Going too much faster above third gear at full throttle, you're probably going to be leaning it more than this bike can support, given its ground clearance. But it's a fun rumble, it really is. It's still work. It still falls under that cumbersome characteristic as I talked about earlier, but I'd rather be going a little bit slower and feeling and hearing my engine and my having to work for the riding experience than just have something that can simply go fast but have no soul. One key to riding these bikes successfully, these big heavy cruisers, is to not ride timid. You still, if you're going to ride aggressive, get up on the handlebars, get up on the front tire, and yank this thing around. And you're going to have to put a little body weight into it, but it's still a motorcycle. It'll still respond to your counter steering and to your inputs. They're just going to require a little bit more grunt to make them happen. But you can ride these things hard, you just have to not be passive. And admittedly, the character of the motor and the seating position all set you up to ride passive. So I don't necessarily blame somebody for riding that way. I ride these like that all the time. But if you do want to ride aggressive, I'm just saying you gotta put some might into it. Interestingly, you can stand pretty easily on the bike. I can still get the controls pretty easily, and we do actually have linked braking on the front brake, so if I were to squeeze the front brake handle, it would squeeze the rear brake for me as well. Not that you're going to ride and stand on this bike, but sometimes when you've been going for an hour or two, you might want to stretch out your legs, and admittedly the seating position does have my legs bent moderately, so there have been times when standing up, shaking out feels good. No quick shifter on this bike, and you get used to riding around with a quick shifter. Maybe you have another BMW in the fleets and you get used to shifting without the clutch. It is something that is a shame to not have, $20,000, but I also get it given the nature of the bike, and you could still shift if you time your clutchless shifting right. Those of you who know what to do with that. It's great. At the end of the day, this bike is not my style, and it's not why I ride. I ride to have something very lightweight and flickable and fast, and essentially the opposite of a car. And this does not provide that. It's not flickable, it's not lightweight, it's not nimble, but it is what a lot of people are looking for in the quintessential motorcycling experience. And hey, I can't fault you for that, because it is a bike that I am going to remember fondly. I've ridden them before, and I remember them fondly from the last time I rode, and it certainly feels like a statement maker. You just gotta be wanting to make that type of statement. Bring it to a stop, and then put out that big kickstand and know that, come on, once it's out and down, you nicely let it way over there, turn the bike off, and there it is. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the R18, check the link below. We've got a few other videos, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, ride on.